That is a very famous Chef Atul Kochhar's chicken tikka pie. Just get a bite of it all with the puff pastry, the chicken tikka within, and also the berry chutney. The chicken tikka is spiced rather subtly. What I love is the delicate crunch of that puff pastry.
So this is the quail tart.
The quail tart.
Yes. Finished with the sesame raita on top, and that's your crab bonda, sir.
Oh, wonderful. Very crunchy at first bite.
This is the classic dum cooked biryani. This is your mean puffs cooked in coconut cream based sauce.
Mercato in Italian means market, and what's interesting is that it's housed in a former church. And right across Big Ben is the London Eye, also called the Millennium Wheel. If you have a place to get to in London, the London cabs know where to go, and they can go everywhere. So it's one of the most convenient ways of getting around London. Of course, you have to pay a few pounds for that. It's a nice rosé, slightly dry. So Chef Atul Kochhar, I've never met before, and when he learned that I was going to be in London, he sent me a message inviting me to this restaurant. And I was looking forward to meeting with him because I've dined at many of his restaurants. I've dined at his restaurant in Dubai a few years ago. Remember that meal? And also at his restaurant in India, but I've never met him and I've heard of his work. So today I was looking forward to meeting him, but turns out unfortunately he's not been feeling too well, and therefore I'm unable to see him. But I'm sure we're going to enjoy the meal nonetheless.
It's a beetroot croquette on the basis chili tamarind chutney, a hand bite to start.
Oh, lovely. Beetroot croquette. I saw something also on the menu which said crab bonda. What is that?
So we also have that as well in the menu.
Okay.
Again, it's a classic bonda, but we have taken with crab. Finished on the side is a corn tarnish, like a tossed up corn, grilled corns with chili tamarind chutney.
Oh, it's quite nice actually. No? I think there's also something starch in this potato, or it's got a lovely crunch. There's a bit of the stickiness that comes from some starch in that, and then the spices. Also a bit of the tamarind sweetness, the red chili warmth. That is a very famous Chef Atul Kochhar's chicken tikka pie. So there's a puff pastry and there's some chicken tikka in that with some berry chutney, and that is a basil chicken.
So this is the quail tart.
The quail tart.
Yes. Finished with the sesame raita on top, and that's your crab bonda, sir.
Oh, wonderful. Nice and moist. It's a famous chicken tikka pie. So there's some puff pastry there and some chicken tikka that's within that with some berry chutney. Wonderful. This is something that I'm really looking forward to tasting, because this Chef Atul Kochhar is known for the chicken tikka pie. Just get a bite of it all with the puff pastry, the chicken tikka within, and also the berry chutney. The chicken tikka is spiced rather subtly. What I love is the delicate crunch of that puff pastry. The chutney has a bit of sour sweetness to it. I think somewhere I can taste a bit of the zira, the cumin. I think also some kalonji, the onion seeds. So out here they have a dish called the Wellington, which is basically with the meat, with the beef. So I think this is Chef Atul's ode to that tradition, but with the chicken tikka. I think this is something that you definitely should try when you come here. What I like is the delicateness of that puff pastry. The lightness of it. And that berry coulis, I think basically helps refresh the palate. It's sharp in its sweetness, in its sourness. So in between bites of that chicken tikka puff, definitely works very well. And that's that quail tart with some tempura of greens on top, some edible flowers as well. You know, quail typically can be a bit dry, but what's interesting here is that the sauce is rather moist, and that basically gives quail, which is otherwise a very austere meat in itself, a nice juicy sort of a bite. There's also the flavor of the mint that you're tasting, which has been, I think, fried in a batter. So there is the fragrance of the mint, the flavor of the mint, but slightly undertoned because of the fact that it's in a light tempura sort of a cooking style. And the tart is light. And now for that crab bonda that I had eyed on the menu with some tamarind chutney. There's a flavor of the curry leaf that you're tasting right away. A bit of the turmeric. There is the texture of the crab that you're tasting, but perhaps a little bit of potatoes as well that's gone in as a binder. And then somewhere I think the mustard seed, the seasoning. The lovely corn chaat sort of a preparation that it sits on. Very crunchy at first bite and then soft within. Now as I'm tasting the second crab bonda, I can certainly feel the saline sweetness of the crab more than the potato, more than the flavor of the curry leaf. So because the crab is soft, I think that corn chaat provides for a nice pop in terms of its texture. Certainly enjoyed the crab bonda, also that chicken tikka puff and that quail tart as well.
This is sagal that I've spoken about. Some garlic naan for the table. Classic dum cooked biryani. This is your mean puffs cooked in coconut cream based sauce.
Some sea bass with a... What's this sauce that you...
That's a mean mapas sauce from the coastal part of India. Cooked in coconut.
Coconut. Is there some raw mango that goes into it?
Yes, a little bit just to give it enhance, but proper coastal sauce.
So this is an inspired dish, I suppose, inspired by the mean mapas. I love the crust of that skin. I just bit into some of the caviar. That certainly gives it that spike of fishiness, if you know what I mean. The ahuna mutton cooked in that clay pot. Saag with some spinach and some corn, with slivers of brista, fried onion on top, and some butter naan or garlic naan with that. You know, I've enjoyed all the dishes before this and the contemporary take on the Indian cuisine, of course. Be it the chicken tikka puff or the quail tarts, the mean mapas in that very Western sort of style. Enjoyed them thoroughly, but there's a very different way in which traditional food hits home when it's presented to you in its traditional form. That is naan and saag. That's some of the mutton next. The Amanna mutton. Lovely garlic flavor in that spinach saag. Very soft, the meat. I can taste some of the hard spices in that. Very gentle in its flavors. I guess to a certain extent, some of the flavors would have been toned down a bit to suit the palates of the audience here in London. But having said that, it certainly makes for a tasty mutton curry. And now for some of that biryani. What if I eat with my hand here?
You like it that way, you do it.
Some biryani to seal the deal. You can certainly taste the saffron in that. Very nice and light. That rabdi is like has the texture of a very light mousse. Very refreshing. The rabdi is almost the texture of a very light, airy, frothy mousse. And then there's the kulfi. What flavor is this kulfi?
Mango.
Light mango kulfi is a bit of pistachio in somewhere. I like a pistachio barfi. Very nutty, very fudgy in its texture. Thoroughly enjoyed my meal at Kanishka. In fact, some of the dishes I thought were very interesting. Things like especially the chicken tikka pie, an Indian take on the Wellington, the quail tart was excellent as well, as was the crab bonda. The main courses were more typical of what you would expect to find in an Indian restaurant. With the naan, with the Amanna mutton was excellent, the lamb was tender, the biryani was fine as well, and then of course there were things like the saag, a lot of garlic in that, and that fish was quite interesting too. We closed the meal with a flourish with the kulfi, that very frothy, light as air rabdi, and a very decadent sort of pistachio fudge, very rich and very impressionable. So if you're looking to taste some Indian food, Indian fine dining, I think Kanishka by Atul Kochhar here in Mayfair is worth looking up. And now that lunch is done, the ladies want to shop. This is a very happening spot in London right now. So this is called the Mercato. Mercato in Italian means market. And what's interesting is that it's housed in a former church. So this church was called St. Mark's and wasn't used as a place of worship anymore. So they converted this into a market of food. And so there are 3 levels and there are different food spots all around. So there's gelatos, there's coffee there's some pasta, ramen, pizza, Neapolitan. There's a wine bar, also not to miss a German brewery right there, and some gin and tonic. So there's also some spaces upstairs, including a bar that I saw the other day. So we were just walking through this area and I saw this place and I didn't shoot then, but I thought I should return and film this. Those of you visiting London, it's not talked about too much yet, but it's definitely building up the buzz for this place. There's a bar here on the first floor. Also some pad thai fried rice, some steak, Malaysian street food. So basically they've rented out small lots to the food vendors, and so you go around to wherever you want to pick your food from, find a seat at the table and enjoy the experience and the atmosphere. It's a good cup of coffee, nice and strong. I think what's interesting about the space is that because it's got different things, so when you come in a group, each one of you can go and get what you want. So that day somebody wanted coffee, somebody wanted a drink, and we could go to the different spaces, get the food and drink, and then sit down in one space in a very unique sort of an atmosphere. Of course, there's some who would find it very objectionable because at the end of the day it's a former church, but it's a church that was not in use. So I'm told that it was shut for a very long time, and so therefore they've regenerated this space in a manner of speaking. What's interesting is that you still have the wooden pews that you're sitting on. There's a stained glass murals that just look fantastic. That's the altar, but of course now there's a gin and cocktails counter at the altar. The bars look inviting, with some lamb and some vinegar onion, quite nice. So the food here is a sort that's very generic. You're not going to get food that's going to blow your mind away. But I think it's more about the vibe of the space, dining with friends. So it's more like a food court, but with some great atmosphere. Cheers. So after Mercato Mayfair, we've now arrived at a local British pub called Lamb and Flag. Just gonna wind down for the evening with a nice lager. I must say I love the atmosphere and the energy of London. People are very focused, I think, in what they do. So when you see them going about their work or whatever else they're going about, they're very focused, there's a lot of energy, and then they also know how to wind down, and this is what they do at the end of a day. So whatever they may be doing, whatever work they may be doing, they find one of their bars, one of their favorite bars, with their colleagues, with their friends, just hang out over a cold one. It's a live and let live sort of a culture. So if you're fine and you're okay, you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, everything is fine. And I think that's the one thing that I find, at least in the last 3 days that we've spent here. We've visited many restaurants, we've gone to the shops, we've just interacted with the public at large. I think this is also one of those cities where everyone is an immigrant, I suppose, in a manner of speaking, whether it's the first generation, second generation. So I think you're more acceptable, you're more accepting, you're more open to different people, different influences, different cultures. And I think that's what gives a city a certain richness, a certain vibe, which I've personally come to appreciate even in this short time that I've been in the city. If you're in London even for a week or 2 weeks, firstly I think you need a lot of time if you want to explore in detail, and then you've got to come in with a very fixed sort of idea of what you want to do, what you would like to explore, etc. if you want to make the most of your trip. So tomorrow, in fact, I'm meeting somebody, and hopefully we're going to take in some of the sites around London, also the museum, a bit of the history, culture, the markets, etc.
So we are planning to go down to Hyde Park. We are going to go down to some of the most beautiful museums in the world. Okay. And if time allows us, we are going to take the boat all the way to Greenwich, go across to the Eastern Hemisphere and come back here.
So as you can see, we have a busy day. Yeah, this is so cool, man. When I set out from Bengaluru to London, I never thought it'd be bicycling, but this is fantastic. So that is the museum. So that's the coin over there.